Hi, Roger Wilson here. Welcome to BeginnerGuitarLessonsFree.com, free lesson number 1. Now all this lesson is going to encompass is just if you've never played any chords before, it's just going to show you some of the positions of the basic open chords in the open position, which means it's the lower position on the guitar. And we'll go through a few chords here, and then I'll do a close-up and let you see them and show you what strings that you would play, and you'll be using a pick just to get the chords down. Now we're going to start with a C chord right there. Okay, that's the C chord. And then there's the G seventh chord. Okay, then there is the G chord. There's two ways to do the G chord. There's the G chord like that with the second finger, and then the third finger and the little finger. And your fingers are numbered 1, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then the thumb. But 1 is your index finger, 2 is your middle finger, 3 is the third finger, or ring finger, and then the fourth finger is the little finger pinky. All right? But basically you're going to be using 1, 2, and 3, and occasionally 4. Okay? Now, we started with the C chord, then the G seventh chord, okay? Then the G chord, and then the D seventh chord, the D chord, the A seventh chord, the A chord, the E chord, the E seventh chord, the E minor chord, the B seventh chord, and the F chord. Okay? Now F is probably the most difficult, but in all those chords, these are the ones that are played so often in folk songs and country songs and rock and roll songs, bluegrass songs, just about anything can be used with these basic chords. So one more time, we got the C chord, the G seventh chord, the G chord, the D seventh chord, the D chord, the A seventh chord, the A chord, the E chord, and the E seventh chord. Then we got the E minor chord, the B seventh chord, and the F chord. All right. Now these are in no particular order as far as the keys are concerned. But right now we're just going to learn the basic positions if you've never played chords before. And a lot of what's involved in guitar playing is involved in chord changes and making a change from one to the other, depending on which one you're using, like that. But a lot of it has to do with what is your right hand or the strumming hand. If your left hand would be your other hand. But your strumming hand or your picking hand, a lot of what goes on with guitar, it's not just a matter of learning chords. There is some stuff that you'll learn later on in future lessons using your strumming technique, whether it be finger picking or flat picking or whatever. There's a lot of different ways to do it. But right now, let's just kind of go back and we'll take a close-up and we'll look at each of these open chords, and then we'll go ahead and look at a diagram that'll show you what strings to play and which ones to avoid within the chord. So right now, let's take a close-up. All right, now here's a close-up of all the chords, starting with C. Now a little later on, you have a PDF that you can print out and look at the chord diagrams, and we'll show those to you also as we go through them. And then, but we'll start now with the C chord. Okay. Now the C chord is the third finger, the ring finger, on the third fret of the fifth string, the middle finger on the second fret of the fourth string. The third string is open. The first finger, the index finger, is on the first fret of the second string, and then the first string is struck open. Now you're not striking the sixth string in this chord, but you're just striking the first 5 strings, okay? And when you play the chord, what you want to do is you want to keep your wrist bent. You want to keep your wrist, like, if you can see how it's almost perpendicular to the neck, but not quite, and you want to keep your fingers arched, and you want to keep the tips of your fingers. You don't want to use the flat pad part, because that's going to mess up. Now there's a time when you go to the F chord where you will use that, but in the C chord, right there, using the tips of the fingers, and you're striking 5 strings. Now the G seventh chord is all 6 strings, and you're taking the ring finger on the third fret of the last string, the second finger on the second fret of the fifth string, the fourth string is open, the third string is open, the second string is open, and the first finger, the index finger, is on the first fret of the first string. Okay? So you've got C and G seventh. All right. Now the next one is G. Now what you're going to do, you're holding the G seventh just like you do with the G seventh chord, except you're going to lift the first finger up and you're going to add the little finger to the third fret of the first string and strike all 6 strings. Okay. So you've got third finger on the third fret of the sixth string, second finger on the second fret of the fifth string. Fourth string is open, third string is open, second string is open, and the little finger is on the third fret of the first string. So there you got C, G7, and G. Now the D7th chord is only using 4 strings, and it is the first finger on the first fret of the second string, the second finger on the second fret of the third string, and the third finger on the second fret of the first string. Now say that 3 times fast and see what happens. Anyway, yeah, you're not striking the sixth string, you're not striking the fifth string, but you're striking the first 4 strings on the D7th chord. Okay? Now the D chord is an inversion of that, and it's still 4 strings, fourth string open, first finger, index finger on the second fret of the third string, ring finger on the third fret of the second string, and the second finger on the second fret of the first string, and that's your D chord. Okay? And once again, you see how my wrist is pretty much staying bent, and I'm bringing my fingers around and using the very tips of my fingers. Very important to do that. You don't want to try to do this kind of thing. There's some crazy style later on that was involved with, like Merle Travis, way on back, some really cool finger picking stuff where he did use the thumb, but that's not what we're doing. Okay? Now the A7th chord, a little bit easier. It's only involving 2 fingers. It's involving the fourth. You're not hitting the sixth string. You are hitting the fifth string open. And you've got the middle finger on the second fret of the fourth string. The third string is open, and the ring finger is on the second fret of the second string, and the first string is open. And that's the A7th chord. Okay? All right. Now, so far you've got C, G7th, G, D7th, D, and then A7th. All right. Now let's go to the A chord. Now the A chord is just like the A7th, except what you're going to do is you're going to take the first finger, the index finger, and add it to the second fret of the third string. Okay. You're still going to strike 5 strings. All right. So what it is the first finger, the index finger on the second fret, third string, middle finger, second fret, fourth string, third finger, second fret, second string, and you're striking 5 strings. Like that. Okay? Alright. Now we're going to go to the E chord. The E chord strikes all 6 strings. The index finger is on the first fret of the third string. The middle finger is on the second fret of the second string. The third finger, the ring finger, is on the second fret of the fourth string. And you're striking all 6 strings. Alright? Now to make the E7th chord, don't lose the E chord. Hold on to the E chord. You're going to take the little finger, and you're going to play it, and you're going to add it to the the third fret of the second string. All right? So you go back to the E chord. First finger, first fret, third string. Second finger, second fret, fourth string. And then, fifth string. And then the third finger, second fret, fourth string. And you hit all 6. And then you strike all 6. You're adding the little finger, fourth finger, to the third fret of the second string. That gives you your E7th. Okay? So far all the chords you've had now are C, G7th, G, D7th, D, A7th, A, E, E7th, E minor, and B7th is the next chord. Okay? And E minor is the next chord. But we ended up with, started with C, G7th, G, D7th, D, A7th, A, E, E7th, and now we're going to go to the E minor. Now what you can do for the E minor chord is, if you make the E chord, you just lift up the first finger and strike all 6 strings. Okay? So what the E minor chord is the second finger, the middle finger on the second fret of the fifth string, the third finger, ring finger on the fourth string, second fret, and you strike all 6. Now here's the difference. See, there was E. Hear the difference? A major chord sounds real pretty and minor and pretty and melodic, and then the E7th chord has got a little, what I would say, a little funk feel to it when you add the little finger in there. But when you get rid of the little finger and get rid of the first finger, it gets that dark, minor, melancholy sound, which is an E minor chord. You might remember the song by Neil Young years ago called Heart of Gold. And what he did was he had E minor, and then went to D, back in the early 70s by Neil Young, Heart of Gold. Now the next chord is the B7th chord. That was just a little example. There's a million of them, but that's just one. All right, B7th is the second finger, middle finger on the second fret of the 5th string. The first finger, the index finger, is on the 1st fret of the 4th string. Okay, the third finger is on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. So you got, and then you take the little finger and you're going to add it into the 2nd fret of the 1st string, but the 2nd string is going to be open, and you're not going to strike the 6th string on this chord, but you're going to strike all 5, the first 5, for the B7th chord. Okay? Alright. Now I'm saving the best on the hardest for last. The F chord is, and this is the one that always gives people trouble, it takes a little bit more time. You take the first finger, and this is where you play the flat part of the first finger on the 1st and 2nd string, but then you have to pull the middle finger over, and keeping this one flat on 2, see, on both of those. This comes over to the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, and then this 3rd finger to the 3rd fret of the 4th string, and you're not striking the 5th or 6th string. You're striking 4 strings. Okay. Now this is a harder chord, and it takes some work. You've got to bend the wrist. You've really got to keep this finger flat, but yet arch this one over. Okay, and then like that, and it's the one that gives everybody the most trouble. So if you can't get it right away, don't worry about it. It's not a problem. Okay, but these are all the basic chords: C, G7th, G, D7th, D, A7th, A, E, E7th, E minor, B7th, F. Okay, and those are all your basic open first position chords right here for free lesson number 1 at beginnerguitarlessonsfree.com. Now let's take a look at the PDF, and we'll go through the charts and the diagrams so you can correspond the fingering and with the diagram, and then just practice the chords on your own. Alright, so I'm looking at our PDF here of all the chords, the charts, the diagrams for each chord. We've got the C chord starting here. And the way these are your 6 strings of the diagram of like looking at the guitar neck straight on. And here for the C chord on the 2nd string, you've got the 1st fret covered with the 1st finger, index finger, the middle finger on the 2nd fret of the 4th string, and the 3rd finger, the ring finger, on the 3rd fret of the 5th string. Now notice the little O up here means that string is open, the 3rd string is open, and the 1st string is open. And then the X on the last string, on the 6th string, means that you're not going to strike that string. So the way I was playing it earlier, when you saw, we were just striking 5 strings. Now over on G7th, you've got the 3rd finger, ring finger on the 3rd fret of the 6th string, the 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the 5th string, the 3 strings there are open, and then the 1st string, you're covering the 1st fret with the 1st finger of the index finger for the G7th chord. So that's how you're looking at those. Then the G chord, and as I said, there's 2 ways to play this. You could use the 1st finger, the 2nd finger, and the 3rd finger, but the way they've got it diagrammed here, and you can just basically follow this one. You've got the 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the 6th string, the 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the 5th string. These strings are open, and then the little finger the 4th finger is on the 3rd fret of the 1st string. That means you can change quickly to if you're in a situation where you go to the G7th chord, you can change a lot quicker. The D7th chord, okay, now you're playing 4 strings. You've got the 2nd finger, middle finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, the 1st finger on the 1st fret of the 2nd string, and the 3rd finger, the ring finger, on the 2nd fret of the 1st string. The last 2 strings are not struck. Same with the D chord. Now, just an inversion there, you're taking the 3rd finger to the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, as opposed to like the D7th chord where it was inverted, and you've got a little different position there. But you're striking 4 strings. The 4th string is open with that little O right there, and you're not striking the last 2 strings. The A7th chord, the 5th string is open. The 2nd finger, middle finger, is holding the 2nd fret of the 4th string. The 3rd string is open. The 3rd finger, the ring finger, is holding the 2nd fret of the 2nd string, and the 1st string is open. You're striking 5 strings. A chord, similar to the A7th. The only thing you're doing, you're adding the 1st finger into the 3rd fret or 3rd string on the 2nd fret. The 6th string is not struck. You're striking 5 strings, and that's your A chord. The E chord, you're hitting all 6 strings. Notice that the last string is open, the first 2 are open, but you're taking the first finger, the index finger, placing it on the first fret of the 3rd string. The second finger is on the 2nd fret of the 5th string, and the 3rd finger is on the 2nd fret of the 4th string. Now you're holding for the E7th chord, you're holding the E chord down, the full E chord, and you're just adding the little finger into the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. That makes an E7th chord. This is used in a lot in blues, like Creedence Clearwater, Tony Joe White, different things like songs like that. The E minor, all you're doing is lifting these 2 fingers up, and you're just holding down the 2nd fret of the 5th string with the 2nd finger, and the 3rd finger is holding down the 2nd fret of the 4th string. You're striking all of these. It's a real melancholy kind of sound, as I showed you earlier in the diagram. Neil Young used this chord back in the Heart of Gold song that he wrote years ago. The B7th chord is a little more complicated, but it's really cool. It's used in the blues turnaround a lot of times in the key of E, in conjunction with E7th. And later on in future lessons, we'll talk about a 1-4-5, which puts you using certain chords in certain keys, like in a blues progression or a country song or a folk song or a bluegrass song. And so the order will change, and there is a sequence. But right now you're just learning the positions. So the B7th chord, you're holding the 2nd finger, middle finger down on the 2nd fret of the 5th string, the 1st finger down on the 1st fret of the 4th string, the 3rd finger, ring finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, the 2nd string is open, and the little finger, the 4th finger, is holding the 2nd fret of the 1st string. You're not striking the 6th string, you're striking 5 strings. And then there's the old illustrious F chord, where here you're barring on the PDF on the 1st and 2nd fret of the 1st and 2nd string. That's got to be flat. You're arching the 2nd finger over to the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, and you're arching the 3rd finger over to the 3rd fret of the 4th string. You're striking 4 strings, and you're not striking the 5th and 6th. So those are your chord diagrams, the way we corresponded in order. So you can look at a diagram and tell what the chord is, and in the meantime, just work on doing the changes and keep on practicing that way. Okay, so that's a look at your PDF now of all the chord forms, a basic open form in the first position. Just work on each chord there with the fingering, try to get the notes sounding clear, and maybe just try to change from one to the other. There's no progression involved yet, so you're really not playing any kind of song or anything, but if you've never played chords before and you're just beginning, this is the great start, and it'll get your hand in the position that you need to be in order to play chords. So be sure to get those down. And check out the other lessons right here at beginnerguitarlessonsfree.com. And if you like what you see, of course, there is the annual membership for all the lessons, with other ones being added in each month, with at least 2 being added in each month. But for now, just have a good time with free guitar lessons, and check them out, and keep on picking. Until next time, I'm Roger Wilson.